example of what does that look like for us in our community, and how can we be each other's stronghold, or leaning into that mothering or fathering, whatever it may be. And maybe you don't want to be anybody's mom or dad. That's fine too. Maybe you could be that auntie or uncle, or that friend, that person, that's somebody.
All right, welcome everybody to Friday Conversations. Friday Conversations is this weird, unique, wonderful thing that we do every Friday, where we get together with business owners, entrepreneurs, and really just people that do interesting things. We get to know each other a little bit better. We bring in a guest, we get to know them a little bit better, and we talk about a topic. Usually a topic, we try to come up with something that is out of the ordinary, something that you don't normally get to talk about in your day-to-day life, in your business, and just give it room to breathe. So I'm super excited about today. I'm always excited, but I'm very excited today. And we're going to start with Dave. We're going to go around and do introductions at the table. And then we have some folks in the gallery that will introduce themselves throughout the conversation. And then we'll get this thing up and running. So Dave, if you're not too distracted, you want to kick us off and introduce yourself, and we'll go to your right.
Thanks, John. Hi, I'm Dave Ribble from Standout Mastery and Standout Marketing Strategies. I help companies grow through the connections and the empathetic listening and the other skills that I teach. I'd love to talk to you about that, show you all of the different ways we do that. Rob?
All right. Hi, everyone. Rob Ruder with Idic Designs. People come to me when they are drowning in software and systems, and their growth and profitability are being impacted. And if that sounds like you, I'd love to have a conversation. This week, I am also bringing a book I've been waiting for a long time. It's called Gap Prospecting by Keenan. And it is the answer that I've wondered about: how do we help people from the moment we market to them to the point at which we deliver a solution.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tyler. I work at Amazon Web Services, specializing in data, technology, analytics, and Gen AI applications.
Awesome. Welcome.
My name's Alec Gonzalez. I'm a life coach and spiritual director. I love to work with ministry leaders and salespeople individually. If you're overwhelmed and busy and not sure how to move forward, stuck in any way, I'd love to meet with you and talk about how we can move forward.
Hello, my name is Ariel King. I have my company, AK Enterprise, and essentially what I do is I'm an investment strategist. So I'll help people set up if they need like a home renovation job for like a fix and flip, get with them, give them like a whole entire package. Also, if you need like funding for your investments and stuff like that, or if you need to buy property even or sell, I do it all. So that's essentially what I do. The home renovation company that I do consultations for is the Bella. So we all use investment grade materials. And I met Alec here, and also very religious and a spiritualist as well. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zane Schwendiman. I am currently hunting my next opportunity, and also happy to be involved here with Friday Conversations and working on a project called The Initiative.
Awesome. I'm Jonathan Biron. I host this show, and I sell real estate. So if you are thinking about buying, selling, getting involved with investing, I'd love to have a conversation and see where that leads.
Hey everybody, I'm Steve Hicks, and I help people over 30 boost their energy and metabolism.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I'm the founder of Posted Consulting, a PR agency in town. And I'm very excited to introduce you all to Stephanie Courtney. She is the executive director of Shades of Motherhood Network, an organization that works to ensure that every Black mother receives the care, respect, and resources that she deserves. She is a Spokane Journal of Business Rising Star recipient. She's also a recipient of the Women of Achievement Awards by the YWCA. This year, her team has gotten Black Maternal Health Week proclaimed as a holiday by the city of Spokane, a huge feat in itself. They have an incredible event series for Black Maternal Health Week coming up that spans film, fashion, art, and poetry. And that kicks off tomorrow. So today, Stephanie is here to lead a conversation about poetry as a tool for advocacy, action, and healing. Stephanie, take it away.
Hi, and my name is Stephanie Courtney, and I'm the executive director at the Shades of Motherhood Network, like Christine said. And I am here to tell you, if you are pregnant, girl, get a doula, okay? No one has to do this alone. Our community is actually a doula desert, as well as a maternal health desert. And I'm really here to raise that conversation to the top, raise our consciousness, and help everyone understand that our superpower has to be redefined. Support is the new superpower, so we need to flex it.
Love it. Awesome. So, topic for today, at least as far as I understand, is poetry.
Yes.
So, okay, I'm gonna be like fully transparent because you just like turned those eyes on me, and I'm like, okay, I'm on the spot. I do not have a great relationship with poetry. In school, I didn't love it. I didn't like. It wasn't though. I grew up structuring sentences and paragraphs, and poetry was like, I couldn't figure it out. So I was very embarrassed and had a really hard time with that.
Yeah.
And then maybe because of that, I don't usually get much from poetry. Now, music, songs, lyrics, I can't get enough of that. My wife, who's in the room and will probably introduce herself very soon, is more into the poetry than the song. So if I want to like read lyrics to her, I just tell her, hey, can I read this poem to you?
Yeah.
Because that's her language. She's like, yeah, read me a poem. That's great. But like
Yeah.
trying to sing a song to her is not, no, can't
She
go there.
appreciates it.
Yeah. But poetry is the thing that you're very
Yeah.
passionate about. So talk to us about poetry.
Yeah, so a lot of people know me from my for-profit business, The Learning Project, which is a business that really focuses on art activism. And what we wanted to do was to bring people's situations to life. When you're talking about something, it doesn't make sense sometimes until you see it, until you feel it, till you experience it with all of your senses. And I was dealing with infertility. I was dealing with loss. I was dealing with all these different things, and I was in the corporate space doing a ton of different things, putting that face on. We call it the strong woman syndrome, and for others, the strong Black woman syndrome. And I've got it together. Everything is perfect. And then it was this one day, it was 7 years after trying with my husband, and he says, I think you need to quit your job, and we need to focus on, you getting your body relaxed, getting the stress off. And I ended up doing that. And out of this really painful moment, we talked about journeys and talked about paths. Out of this one painful moment, me leaving this job that had so much connection to my identity, I decided to make this leap, and I ended up going through IUI, but I also got introduced to a doula. Somebody I went to Whitworth University with. She was planning to be a doctor, and she tells me that she's a doula, and I didn't know what that was, but she said, yeah, there's different types of doulas. There's infertility doulas. There are doulas that work with adoption, work with single fathers. They work with people who have infertility. She instantly got when she said infertility. And that is where the birth of the Shades of Motherhood Network came about, but also my love and understanding of what poetry and art and how they go together. So when you hear a lyric and you hear songs, that is poetry. It doesn't have to rhyme. This isn't like the green eggs and ham. I do not like green eggs and ham. This is the words that lead me through life or lead me through a situation. And I think that's why so many people connect to our event that takes place next week called Policy and Poetry. And it's because we give people the opportunity to express themselves, whether that be through a quote or through a poem or even lyrics that inspire them to talk about how they're crushing a crisis around the social determinants of health. And fun fact, Google has a playroom on their campus because adults stop playing at a certain age. Usually about 16, people will stop playing. And when you stop playing, that shuts a part of your brain down. And so when do professionals who are doing phenomenal things get an opportunity to tap into some of that reinvention of play and creativity?
This is so good. I'm curious to like hear different people as they interact with this. Like I've just recently been trying to like play.
Yes.
Like I put on some music and I like wiggle. Like I'm like, you gotta get the wiggles out, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like,
Yeah.
it feels really weird, like, especially just doing it in front of a room full of people right now, but like, and that wasn't even anything, I was just getting started, so yeah, like, jump in here, somebody.
Well, the thing that comes to my couple of things related to this is the power of a poem, at least for me, is the ones you connect with. I mean, there's a lot of poetry and I don't, you know, it's like I can look at, you know, whatever, but I still remember two poetry related events. One was as a child, there was an anthology of Robert Frost poems that my dad had, and I remember looking at that because, you know, in our community, our family, we always knew, you know, two roads diverged, and you know, and that was just a well-known one. But I opened this book one day, and the very first poem was from a collected works that he had published in 1914. It was called Into My Own. And I remember reading that and instantly connecting with it to a point at which that was actually the first poem I felt compelled to memorize, because it was so, I mean, it just got me. And still to this day, you talk to me and say, okay, what's your poem? I will drop that word for word on you from right now. I'm resisting the urge as it is right now.
What do you think, everybody?
Mine that took you out.
So actually, it's really the whole piece, but here it is. So this is Robert Frost, 1914, Into My Own. One of my wishes is that those dark trees, so old and firm, they scarcely show the breeze, were not as 'twere the merest mask of gloom, but stretched away unto the edge of doom. I do not think that I should e'er turn back, or that those should not set forth upon my track who miss me here and long to know if still I held them dear. They would not find me changed from him they knew, only more sure of all I thought was true.
Yes.
That's awesome, thank you, Robert.
I'm Melissa Biron and I own Thrive Wellness. And what I do is I help people with their metabolic stability through gut health, mental health, and just overall being. I am loving this topic. I'm going to touch on a few things. 100%, I think every woman should have someone who can advocate for them when they are doing the most incredible, rewarding, most difficult thing, which is birthing a child from them. So having a doula, 100%. Yes, we had one for each one of our children. And it was a beautiful process. The other thing, bringing play and art into your world, it's such I think it's a lost thing that we have just really not thought about that we don't think about as we grow older. And I think it is so important to bring that into our lives. Something that I have learned recently is that we're really supposed to be on the ground playing with our kids, but we're not. We're supposed to be, when our daughter, comes up to me and says, will you play a game with me? Which is literally every day. Just taking that moment and saying, yes, I'll play that game with you. If, my son wants to go out and just play with the basketball, go out and play with him, and giving them also that expression and it's okay to do that. And it's part of their development, but it's also part of ours with them. So poetry, I think, is such a beautiful thing. Thank you, Rob, for sharing that with us. And but it's not just poetry, it's so many other forms, and you gotta figure out what it is for yourself. Yes, I see John dancing and doing all the things. But you know, incorporating that in very small ways throughout our day, you know, a lot of you know I love working out, so I do a weird thing before I work out and nobody's around. It's just me. And I do this weird, like, stretchy thing, get my body moving before I even lift weights. It's like, but nobody's there and it's wonderful, but it's my, you know, my little form of play. It probably takes just a few moments, but it loosens me up. And I think that is the point. We just need to loosen up, for goodness sake. And just incorporate that in just different ways in our lives. So, yeah.
I'd like to add something to like the whole effect of, you know, being more playful in life, and especially when it comes to like all of our accomplishments that we try to, you know, succeed in. Obviously you guys have accomplished many great things, and with that, I would say the Bible verse, it says here, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never inherit or enter the kingdom of heaven, by the Bible, Matthew 18:3. So, I mean, with that said, I feel like as we're adults, we get really stressed out with life. We get kind of stuck in our own like thought processes and stuff like that. But really, all we need to do is just think and use our imaginative faculties and just make believe. And then when we do that, then basically all of our dreams happen. If we just give faith to God that it's all going to be taken care of, then amazing things can happen. So that's why I really wanted just like being more playful, you know, even being a little bit delusional, even though if it doesn't make sense, even if people tell you, oh, hey, you're like out of your mind, that doesn't make any logical sense. There's no way you're going to be able to accomplish this. Doesn't matter. As long as you have faith in God, I mean, faith moves mountains, right? God makes miracles happen. So if you just like think in the eyes of a child, like when we were kids, we imagine things, we make believe, we think, oh, I want to be like a princess, or I want to be an astronaut, or whatever, right? And as adults, we lose that. And so I feel like it's really important, you know, to make sure that we keep that in mind and use our imaginative faculties. So
yeah, I was just gonna say something to that effect. Oh, great, yes. Yeah.
And introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Emily Funston. Nice to meet you. I'm a life coach in the area, and my business is called The In Between. And yeah, I just love helping people with the messy middle of life, right? Like finding the joy that God has for that. And yeah, I was just thinking about that, the faith like a child idea, and I think we forget that also involves a certain amount of not just dreaming, but allowing yourself to think things that might seem foolish sometimes, you know, like, oh yeah, I want to be an astronaut, or you know, something that doesn't seem realistic anymore. I think it's really helpful to still be able to think and say those things, because shouldn't we be able to still dream even if things don't work out exactly like we thought? So yeah.
Love it. Awesome.
Well, I really like the idea of the poetry and policy event. Because for me, poetry, and really all language, right? Language is how we understand and interact with the world and try to make big things small and digestible. And I think that's probably part of the reason why Jonathan doesn't love poetry, because when we learn poetry in school, it's all the classics, like learn Tennyson, and the language is awkward, and so we can't really digest it well. I mean, if I'm not gonna flex like Rob and tell everyone like once upon a midnight dreary while I pondered weak and weary. We don't have 10 minutes for the Raven. But anyway,
I do like that.
yeah, well, it's got a nice cadence.
It does.
Anyway, sometimes we have restrictions or hesitations around poetry because it's not how we process language. It's weird word choices. I had a little experiment like last year where I was trying to write a haiku a day. Because it's when you're trying to get that syllable count right and condense complex ideas, the structure of the language allows you to interact with the idea in a different way. And I've even challenged, I think it was Rob, like a couple months ago here during a Friday conversation. I was like, if you had to re-say that in just 10 words, how would you say that? And it's just playing with language allows us to understand our life better. So I'm excited about the poetry and policy event. When is that?
Okay, so I want to make sure that I say it right because I said we have a whole week of craziness. Poetry and policy is April 13th, which is a Monday evening at Nectar Fest. And yeah, and it's not political. And I think that's the other part that's the oxymoron to this. This is not like talking about your political standards. This is talking about people in our community. What are we going to do about the problems that we're going to see? My favorite person I listen to every single morning, Mel Robbins, she says, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save you. And when she says that, that is poetic. That is the poetry. And if no one is coming to save us, how are we going to show up for each other every single day? When we hear a statistic about Black women, poetry right here. When we say save the rainforest, it doesn't mean forget all the other rainforests. It means that this rainforest is in trouble. And if we find solutions for one group of rainforests, we're going to find solutions for everybody. When we start hyper focusing on whether it be men's health, talking about cancer, because a lot of the men do not go to the doctor. A lot of men, we just did a beautiful article on a young man diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, 2 weeks to live, because he didn't know that him being tired and exhausted was a problem.
Wow.
He was a drummer. His name is Dre. We honored his mother and the work that we do. And these are the poetic pieces. These are the policies for things that we are fighting for to become a healthcare community instead of being focused on healthcare systems.
I like that.
As someone who's been to the policy and poetry night in previous years, what I've always loved about the event is how many people come in and share their experience in their own words, and how many of them apply poetry to that. And they really speak from the heart, and you get this very like visceral view of what they've been through. And then at the end, everyone claps and snaps and listens and congratulates them and wraps them in love. And it's just one of the most beautiful events.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite ones to go to
It
every
is.
spring.
We had the director of the women's department in multi-care. She came and did like a whole poem about women's health, and everybody did different stuff. It wasn't just about health, but I just thought that was so awesome for her to come and show up in that way to talk about how she is focused on crushing a particular crisis.
I've been over here also thinking, one of the things catches me when I'm scrolling on Facebook, and your perspective on it, is I think in Spokane, we call them poetry slams, but there's basically the open mic, somebody just steps up and then just starts vibing to a story or an experience, and yet it comes out in poetic language. And it's always fascinating for me to listen to that, because there's so much passion in the voice, and yet there is those rhythm power of the language they choose with that. And is that kind of the experience of going to this event?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Some people rhyme to a rhythm. Some people literally just get up and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. This is a quote that I love and I want you to know. how I'm crushing a crisis. So we can actually just practice right now. So I'm gonna say to
All right,
you,
let's do it.
I'm gonna say to you, I'm here to, and then you say crush the crisis when I point out to you, okay? I'm here to.
Crush the crisis.
So then you say, my name is Stephanie and I'm here to crush the crisis around housing. My name is Stephanie, I'm here to crush the crisis around health. Whatever it is that you're passionate about. And then they just go in and they either read a poem or they're like, this quote speaks to me because we need to make a difference in our community. One of my favorite quotes is, when a mother has a child, it's time for the mother to be mothered. That's by Kimberly Johnston, Fourth Trimester. And that poem resonates with me because not everybody grows up with a mother that is nurturing, that has connection, that understands how to even nurture you in different seasons of your life. So what does that look like for us in our community? And how can we be each other's stronghold or leaning into that mothering or fathering, whatever it may be? And maybe you don't want to be anybody's mom or dad. That's fine too. Maybe you could be that auntie or uncle or that friend, that person, that's somebody.
I really like, and I'm really like, I'm struggling. I prompted everybody before we started to like be concise, think before you know. So I'm struggling to like get this, but I'm very excited about this. Kind of this idea that we're all coming from these different perspectives.
Yeah.
I started reading a book. I got to meet the author of the book. It's called Amplify Your Influence. And he's a behavioral psychologist, and he's been studying this stuff for like a really long time. So like just getting to interact with his understanding of it was impressive. But he talks about the when you're trying to influence an outcome, the frame is where you have to start, right? Because my frame is radically different than your frame. Where we grew up, what we experienced with our family, what we've experienced like marriage, child, like all these things influence my frame of reference. And yours is radically different. Steven's is radically different than both of ours.
Yeah.
And we have a room full of people that have completely different frames of even like what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Like it's different contexts, different, so many different things. So the framing is super important. The message obviously is important. Once you've set the frame, you deliver the message. But the thing that he adds on that was like, it's obvious, but it was like a real aha moment for me is the tie down. Right. So I set the frame for you. I connect with you emotionally with the story, the messaging. You're like, oh, that feels good. And like, you're almost like emotion, right? You get to this space of like, yes. And then you just like walk away.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, but no, you like tie that down with, so because of this thing, we need to do this together.
Yeah.
That's when influence starts to happen because you move people emotionally and then you tie that to an action. So it sounds like what you're doing is setting people up to do exactly that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the call to action that I'm asking people is get together. Get together, be together, stand in these spaces that are really difficult to talk about. And I think when it comes to race, especially right now, a lot of people are like, I don't want to talk about this, but it's not just race. There's different intersectionalities of people that you want to hear these stories because these stories might be a part of your family story one day. You might have a family that has a mixed race family, or you might have a friend that's like, hey, I don't know what to do. Or it's the guy that told my husband, who's an IT guy, I was like, those are like very, no offense, but they're like, no chitter chatter. He got the chattiest wife. And I remember when we get ready to have our daughter, one of the guys was like, hey, Jason, he's going through all this stuff. And he's like, hey, man, I want to tell you something. I was like, okay. He was like, what's going on? He was like, don't you let those doctors tell your wife she has to do anything. You stand up for her and you do this and do this. And he's like, I was not expecting that. And he was like, because this was our first child. And so it's just that little message that he told him. And he was like, sending him facts on what he could do and all this other stuff. That's like a form of doulaing. If those that don't know what a doula is, it's a person that provides emotional and physical support. That's a whole art in itself. And that's what he was doing. It was encouraging him to be present and not just to be a person standing by. And so when you're talking about what is the call to action, I'm asking people to come and show up to these poetry spaces or these other spaces they typically would not be a part of. We talk about culture. Culture is not about color. Culture is about your experience. We all come from somewhere. If you have not been to Ellis Island before, you need to get there 100%. One of the first things that you will see when you go to New York, go up to Ellis Island, you will see suitcases from the floor to the ceiling of people who came through Ellis Island. And what they did was they put their cultures away. They put their poetry, their recipes, their clothing, their things that connected them to their home. And they said, I'm going to become American. I'm going to become these things. And so that's where we get our last names like Baker and Cook, because that all connects to our occupation. And so you have these people that leave their past behind, coming into this new space. And now everyone's saying like, well, why do we need culture? And a big part is the words. It is the smells. It is the experiences that you have when you come into these poetry spaces. Each one of you probably can think about something at your grandmother's house or someone that was like a grandmother figure or somebody that you wish to be your grandma. And they had something in their house that you can think of, and it brings you some kind of feeling. And that's what poetry does. It reminds you, it wakes you up to say, hey, do you remember this? Do you connect with this? Or do you know this? Or asking the question to be or not to be. And that is the question, right? That is the question. Are we going to be in space together? Are we going to wait for something to happen for us to get together? I was just telling their beautiful wife that I was in 9/11, and I remember being in there, and I was in high school. No one could call anybody. All of our families basically worked at the Twin Towers. A lot of people. I was there because my sister's in the military, and I was there helping. And I just remember everybody running everywhere, screaming, looking for their parents, looking for somebody to help, not sure what to do. And at the end of the day, we had to learn as high schoolers, come together right now, because we can see the smoke from our high school. We don't know where our parents are. We don't know what we're gonna do. We don't know where we're gonna go. And to me, that experience was so traumatic. But our teachers, our English teachers, different people, they created space for us to talk about those things. I think some people talked about being in the healthcare space. What does trauma do to your body? When you are constantly under stress, whether it be in business, whether you're an activist, how does that impact your body? What does it do to your stomach, the pit of that? How do you get that out? And I'm not saying air all your business. Don't be telling everybody your business, okay? Don't tell everybody your business. But being able to create a space where people are like, yeah, I'm in a whole different field than you, but we can still relate. Like right now, we need relation. We need connection. We need to know that when you look at me and I look at you, I see your hurt. I don't really understand it, but I know there's an issue here. And so when I share statistics like Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die due to pregnancy related issues, and 60% is preventable. This is hemorrhaging, sepsis, preeclampsia, all of these different things. And these are not just buzzwords. These are words that people are trying to express like what's going on with their body, and they're not being heard and they're not being listened to. And guess what? It can happen to you too. So if we do not change the way that we are speaking and connecting and listening to one another, we're not going to see a difference. We're not going to hear each other. And so when you had mentioned Robert Frost, that's one of my favorite poets. So I was like, yes, that one. He talks about the roads, the diverged roads. Which road are we going to go? One is easy and one is going to be hard. And sometimes taking the road that's harder and showing up and connecting with one another, that's the road that's less traveled. And that's the road we need in our cities, in our community, and even in business. How are we going to support each other?
This is the pause. Yeah, do it. Perfect. Yep.
There we go. I don't know.
It'll get you. There you are.
Tyler Dickerhoff, I'm a podcaster, author, leadership coach. But as we sit here and we think about all this, the thing that I constantly come back to is, why don't we do this? What's keeping us from doing it? I wrote the book, The Things We Hide, which was unveiled a trauma for me. And what I center on and what I come back to is what keeps us even in that frame and message. What keeps us from being able to have those authentic stories is our fears and insecurities. And what everyone else is going to think about your journey, your experiences, everyone else. And it's like those fears and insecurities hold us back from being able to authentically and vulnerably connect with people. And so I always come back to, what are those fears and insecurities? If we don't know those, then the solution, the poetry, the speaking from a heart, to be able to be authentic with everyone will never come out, because it's just constantly a mask, because we never dealt with what is really holding us back.
Good.
So
I love how you just said that and just put it in such a perfect frame. So I'm gonna be vulnerable. Okay, can I be vulnerable with everybody right now? Please. Okay. So I came from corporate world and now I'm in nonprofit world. And we have a lack of people with certain skills. And maybe this is something everybody experience here in Spokane. We're a small city, but we're the second largest city. So get that on track there. But you know, there's like a skill gap in certain areas. And so, you know, you're getting people in space with you where you're trying to help them build those skills, but also you're trying to build your compassionate skills or your great skills or whatever skills it is. And you are open to people seeing every single poor leadership, great leadership, what the heck is she doing leadership, story. And when you're exposing yourself like that, you get vulnerable and you worry about losing traction or power or respect or any of those things. And I think poetry really asks you to be super vulnerable, to share those things, not just sharing how great or all the right moves you did. And so I think the question for me, like just hearing everybody here, what does that mean to you to be able to show that type of vulnerability, and what are you telling yourself when you do that? So it's not just making you feel like if I share this, everyone's going to look at me differently. And maybe they will. And who cares if they do? But also too, how do we deal with that as leaders, especially in spaces where we are expected to have the answers, know what's right, and know what's next?
can I ask a question to that?
Yeah.
Did everyone feel more or less connected with her when she just shared that? More. The place where I believe vulnerability has the greatest spot is to enhance and develop connections. If it doesn't do that, it's victimhood. You talked about that earlier. We all have stuff, right? If it enhances and drives connections, then it absolutely has a place. And that could be in one room, that could be in a different conversation where you share something different. But if it enhances that connection, then it absolutely has a place in relationships and leadership in anything. If it takes away from it, pack it away. There'll be a time and place, not then.
Yeah.
Wow.
Love it.
I want that on a t-shirt. That was brilliant.
Very big t-shirt.
Yeah.
I was going to contribute that, a few weeks ago, I tried to share a similar concept. And as Stephen asked me in 10 words. So the point about vulnerability is that you expose your willingness to change. You're not stuck with what you have as truth. You're willing to be open to something changing in the future. And my teaching model is to be prepared against surprise is to be trained. But to be prepared for surprise is to be educated. And that's about vulnerability. When you're prepared to be surprised, you're open and vulnerable to what comes.
I think going back to connection, I think connection takes difficult stories, it gives them purpose. Is, what goes on in my head there is, I think for me, dealing with anxiety and depression for a lot of my life, it really could have stayed, like if I had just let that be a difficult story and not try to, got into, but also let others find some meaning in it, it would have just stayed a sad story. But, connecting with other people who also deal with that and want to see a lot of the same, the lessons come out of it. Connection makes all the difference.
And I just want to say for somebody that's watching this, I think resiliency is one of the most powerful things, right? But what happens when you don't find that happiness? What happens when you're just sad and you're walking around smiling? For us the work that I do, we really focus on maternal health and mental health. And we try to put them together because there are tons of people that are literally going to see doctors and nurses and never receiving a referral to a mental health specialist. Or marriages are being torn apart, or relationships are being torn apart within the first year of a child's life. 35% of people are getting divorced and separating. And they're asking themselves, like, am I even worthy of being supported? Am I even worthy, or do I even have the words to even figure out what I'm doing? And it's just that line of vulnerability. And when we're trained not to even find that space, it's hard. And I really want to say something to our guys too. Men can deal with postpartum depression.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
I don't want to do the guy bashing thing because it's too easy.
What? I'm joking. I'm joking.
But, you know, kind of speak to that really about where's the male part of this equation?
Yeah.
And are they there, or is there a percentage of them that don't even show up?
You know, when we talk about postpartum depression, it looks different in men. It looks very different. It can come out as anger. It can look like disassociation. It can come out as very, of course, the emotional piece comes in. A doula can help the whole family. Pointing you into those right resources, such as a counselor, peer support groups, making sure that you just understand how to feed yourself, getting sleep, getting some of those simple principles that we think are simple and people really can't do. And for me, one of the messages I tell people all the time is that your journey matters as a father. And for some reason, we're not having the discussions around what fatherhood looks like and what it brings to you right away. My son is a heart baby. That means that he was born with a heart condition. He had open heart surgery. He almost died. I almost died. He is a miracle baby. He is almost 2 now. But the things that I saw my husband have to do running between myself and my son and having to keep it together and then expecting to show up as this whatever, it was a lot for us both to digest. The new types of parents, the new type of activists, the new type of IT people, whatever industry you're in, our children are changing our journey. Maternal health is changing our journey. 1 in 100 kids have heart conditions. 1 in 36 kids have autism. We can't show up the same way that we've always had in the past. So when we look at what's happening with men specifically, where are the resources? Where are the support systems? How are we not having those conversations so that they can still, if you want to perform at a high rate or low rate, whatever it may be, where are those spaces? And like, that's something that we've really explored with. And we just try to empower other men groups to kind of partner with us so that we can get those dads in there, because once they see them being their partner being supported, they want to be supported too, but they don't really know how to accept the support because it's this back and forth thing. And so if you're feeling like you're disassociated, extremely tired, maybe even feeling like some jealousy or not understanding, like, why am I not bonding with a baby or bonding with the words of poetry? Maybe there's something that you need to go a little bit deeper in. And that's what a lot of these spaces do. We have an art exhibit. It's like 4,000 square feet. It's insane, of just like straight images of people and their stories. And people come in and pop up and change the images in and out of space. And so I really would like to see more opportunity for even just around the table of what it actually means to be a father or even losing a child. There's no spaces for fathers to actually talk about loss or dealing with infertility themselves. I can go on and on and on and on.
I have 2 boys and a girl, and they're all married and have kids of their own. But I believe that one of the things that goes missing is the parents are not teaching young men enough about all of this.
No, it's not happening.
Or how to respect women.
Not happening. And also, fun fact, grandfathers typically are one of the best partners for their grandchildren because they learn and then they give their grandchildren what they didn't do for their children. And then they're like, you know, I always make fun of my dad because he's a veteran. He's from the South. He's very hardcore. And we have a 4-year-old and she goes to her grandpa's every Friday. And that's where she wants to be at. And he says to me, you can't discipline her. You can't tell her nothing in front of me. That's my baby. She's just a baby. I was like, she's 4. What? I was like, I looked at you wrong and I had to go take a nap. I'm like, throwing things, doing all this stuff. And he's like, she's a baby. And so, you know, we know that there's some reflection that's being done there. And we can see it when people are becoming a grandfather, but no one is actually going full circle to say, hey, you know what, this is actually what I learned as a father. And that is poetic in itself. Being able to just write down like, hey, you know what, I wish I could have gave you this, but I didn't know I could. I didn't know that I could be this vulnerable with you and giving that to your child, or even just writing down some advice for them because we don't know when our last breath is. And again, it's the knowledge, it's the sharing, all of that's part of poetry. That's all part of the movement. And I'm really glad you asked that. Are you, the question I have for you, what kind of grandfather are you?
Really good.
Yep. Do you feel like you could have did something different with your children when they were growing up now that you're a grandfather?
Probably 100 things.
Yeah.
They also all moved to Texas. So I'm standing around one day in California and my entire family just left the state.
Wow.
That's kind of a thing I'm going through now.
Wow.
Trying to figure out what to do about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think you're gonna move?
I think I'll have to eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's this.
This ain't Texas.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was gonna say, I like what you're talking about connections and sharing your story and being vulnerable, and just you sharing your story right there of your husband bouncing back and forth. My oldest has hydrocephalus, and we found out while my wife was pregnant, so we knew, had to have C-section, and I went right back there, the bouncing between. I had to leave my wife on the surgery table to go be with my son, and he had several brain surgeries. The first few weeks were there, and that bouncing back and forth, and it took me right back there. But having that connection again, if you didn't share that story, I'm not going to sit here and share it, but then that puts the onus on me, right? Am I going to share my story and see who else I can connect to and grow deeper connections together with those people? Or am I going to sit here in silence and not share myself and continue to suffer?
That's the poetry. That's the poetry right there. Like, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm so glad you did, because instantly I felt a connection with you, because people don't know what those families go through in the NICU and PICU. It is isolation. It is one of the darkest times of a person's life because you don't know what is going on and you just want to get through it. And they don't have any windows. And that's the weirdest part. Like, our hospitals, they don't have windows. And I went through this moment where I got like fixated with plants and light. And like my little son, he's a redhead, and we're both Black. My family is French Creole, so my grandmother's like green eyes, red hair, and we see this little redhead kid, and I'm like, who is this? And I'm like, not sure what to do here. But the one thing I did know was that I wanted to save him. I wanted him to be okay. And so I would bring all these plants in, and they would be like, Stephanie, you're not allowed to bring real plants in. And he's like, but I'm so glad you shared that. And I hope that somebody that is listening knows that somebody made it through.
Yeah.
That's what poetry, sometimes it leaves you with a mystery. Sometimes it lets you know you can get through. And sometimes it tells you that things are going to be really crappy and there's nothing you can do about it. And sometimes they'll just say, just try. But you got to lose.
So I like to do a little pivot around this time to the quieter folks in the room. A lot of us that are confident to just jump right in tend to dominate a conversation like this. And the ones that are a little more introspective and take a little more time to compose their thoughts and feelings don't necessarily step into it. And because of the vulnerability piece, there's definitely a reluctance
Mhm.
And I know I've felt this in spaces where like, oh, I would probably share that, but I want to make sure I'm not stepping on any toes. So those of you that have shared amazing thoughts, myself included, I'm going to kind of tone it down. And yes, we'll have maybe dead air for a minute, but if you've been just kind of like, you're right on the edge, you're like, I just want to share something. This would be a great time for you to jump in with that. And then we'll kind of put a bow on this, even though I'd love to talk for the next 5 hours. This is
I'll
great.
step in.
Yes.
I feel like he keeps looking at me. I don't think I knew exactly what I was getting into when I signed up for this, but my name is Jessica. I'm a benefit consultant. I help small and mid-sized organizations find solutions. And my son was born premature. Yeah, and he has autism, and he ended up getting a bunch of antibiotics in the NICU with something this ago, and I did not have a doula. And the hospitals don't always tell you all the information that you need to know. And I had to go through a journey that I ended up finding to repair his gut. Sorry for being emotional, but yeah, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, and sometimes you need to have resources in the community. And so it took my aunt, who's a teacher, to tell me, like, do you guys remember the Guild School, which is now Joya? They do a penny drive, right? Do you know what they actually do? And a lot of people don't, and I didn't either. They provide free birth to 3 services. And so fortunately, I was able to get my son help before he turned 3, and they funneled me into a public school system. But anyway, it's just really hard when you go through circumstances like that. And I think that's a real big part of why women need doulas and advocates and be like air traffic control for when you have a lot of stuff going on. So anyway, that's my story.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
I'm a Joya family too. Thank you.
I have another question. Can I do that, John?
Sure.
A friend of ours is a 30-year RN. And she wants to start her own business that would help people by letting her see their charts to see whether or not.
Wow.
Is that a good
Absolutely.
need? Is that a,
Absolutely. 100%. I'm part of a group called Pivot that's based out of Washington, D.C., and they're really talking about how AI and different things like that are going to help people understand their charts. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're looking at. And sometimes you can't even remember what you're looking at because you're faced with something right in front of you. And so we need more advocates in the holistic side and the medical side to join this movement, to join what's going on here in our community. We need more people to have options, to feel autonomy over their body, regardless of if people agree with it or not. It's your choice. It's your body. And you should be able to know all of the information so that you can make the right decision for yourself.
I guess I'll speak. My wife got really sick and died for a season, and they raised her up again, and it's a glorious miracle. There was a part of that journey that I was responsible for paying attention and listening and trying to understand what was going on. And my pea brain and my fear of needles and my broken soul could not listen. It couldn't hear. I would talk to a doctor and I felt like I was in those peanut. I couldn't understand a friggin' thing. And so I would bring people with me to the hospital because I knew I wasn't going to understand what they said. And it was so, I wasn't going to say nothing because this whole conversation has been rather difficult and uncomfortable and not really that fun, honestly. But man, if your wife is really sick and you're in the hospital, or your son or daughter, I I really recommend bringing someone along who can listen and pay attention. Sometimes my wife will go with me to a doctor's appointment because she knows I can't hear. I can't pay attention. My brain is on, like, I'm really afraid of needles. And I hate doctors and I don't want to be in, all this stuff. And it's just, it's overwhelming, and that's my difficulty. And I just I wanted to say it because it's not about babies, maybe. It's not about, but sometimes it's just about someone you love is in the hospital and they're talking stuff and you don't know what they're saying. Like, anyway, I brought a friend. Smarter ones are better.
It's great.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks for opening up what I don't want to talk about.
I think that it's hard to know what to be prepared for. It's hard to know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
I fortunately have 2 kids, healthy, wife had them naturally, everything went good. Feel very blessed to be in that situation. I read lots of books going into it, so I felt like I knew what questions to ask, but like being there for her and for them, it was like, it's difficult. It's difficult to know what to do and what to trust doctors and what everybody's saying you do. And like, as someone that works in tech now and in AI and seeing all of these products and coming to light, like it's going to change the game for a lot of people. And I think like helping people understand how to use the tools that are available to them in the right way. I had my blood work done about a year ago and didn't have a follow-up with my doctor, got all of my charts, and I'm like, cool, now what? So I took all of that and started feeding it into ChatGPT and asking good questions. And the next thing I knew, I had a vitamin routine and a health routine. And like how to raise and lower different levels. And like you're in normal, but you're at the upper or lower end of normal, and your physician may not talk to you about those things. Like more and more of these products are out there, and like I think being able to help people understand how to use them. Like my mother, for example, bless her heart, late 60s, gonna go get my blood work done. I'm like, cool. Throw it into your chat bot and like start asking questions. How do you feel? How do you feel? And it's a wealth of knowledge that's there and available for you. And cool thing, I don't know if it's good or not, but a lot of these companies are moving towards health products. I'm worried about the way that they're moving into health products and the profitability of them with the healthcare industry. And like, who's your health product for? Is it for people or is it for corporations? So like, there's a lot to be seen as we kind of go forward here. But like, I think currently it's still an incredible tool that I think more and more people should be able to start using. Unfortunately, it takes away from like the personal connection that I think like we're all seeing here today. So I wouldn't say don't solely rely on it, but like talk to your peers and think about those things, like not just inside of the bubble, but outside of it. Like, do these things resonate with you? Does it make sense?
And tying it back to poetry, there's a lot to be said with the spoken word and what's been handed down from your ancestors, your grandparents, and the lessons that they've learned along the way that stood the test of time. So even with ChatGPT, there's still plenty of options for learning from what's already been said.
Well, I think I'm gonna kind of just wrap this up with a thought that's been just feels like it's been hovering. I think everybody will even kind of be like, yeah, that's we're all feeling this thing. And Alec, I'm gonna kind of take what you shared as far as bringing somebody to the hospital and sort of this like third party concept. And I'll be vulnerable. Melissa and I are both very comfortable sharing this because it's something we went through and are still going through. And our oldest is 15 and our youngest is 8. And she went through a very difficult season with depression, with postpartum depression specifically, but just a lot there. And there's a whole bunch to the story. And I wasn't hearing her. I didn't understand. I didn't have the frame of reference to validate, to like none of it. And I thought we were great. I thought things were good, and she was just having a kind of tough time. You're like, oh, I'm sorry if you're having a tough time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, and And it took for us, well, first of all, it took her getting to a space where she was like, something needs to change. We are not okay. And I was like, no, we're okay. You're just struggling. Right? Like that was, and so we went to a therapist, and the first therapist that we went to was good and helped us. And the biggest thing that he helped us with is that she was sharing stuff that she'd been telling me for years. And when he mirrored it back to her and said, what I'm hearing you say is this, and he said it as a man, a guy's perspective, and he struggled with some of the same stuff that she struggled with. All of a sudden, I was like, oh my gosh, no way. That's what you've been trying to tell me. And I realized, yeah, that's exactly what she's been trying to tell me. And it just wasn't landing until I heard it from a guy's perspective.
Yeah.
And then the next therapist that we went to, that long story why we ended up there, but that particular guy helped us so much with so many tools that if any of you are having challenges in your marriage, relationally at all, I highly recommend him. And I won't shout him out now because time is of the essence, but so the main takeaway, and it's what I'm hearing, is when you feel like something's wrong, and one of the concepts I've heard recently a lot is like the things that trigger you, the things that make you freak out, whatever that, when you feel that and you're like, wow, why did I just like road rage, whatever it is, like look at that, look more closely at it. And based on this conversation, what I would say is bring that to someone that you trust, that you can be vulnerable with and be like, I don't even know why, but I rub up against this thing and it just shuts me down, or whatever that might be. And then, yeah, the power of the spoken word. I'm gonna keep going. Sorry. There's one other thing that I think it was when you were sharing, but the idea of confession came to me. And confession is a powerful thing. When we speak something, you mentioned like feeling anxiety and depression. When you said that out loud to a room full of people, was it like, wow, that has so much less ownership over me now because I said it out loud? The guardrail on that is that sometimes we can confess to the wrong person, and now they're carrying our burden, and it's not a healthy carrying. There might be like something I could share with Steven, and he's got the shoulders to carry it, and then maybe that wouldn't be appropriate for me to share with Zane. And I'm just picking on the people to the right and left. So yeah, like with all of that, a couple of things to close the time that we have together. One, I want to thank Rob Reuter, Idic Designs, for providing lunch for us. And Dry Fly for hosting us here. Amazing, awesome partnership. They have a great restaurant. Come check them out at any time. We will be here again next Friday with a generosity piece. We had a guest lined up that had to back out, and we think we have our next guest, but we're not locked, so we're not going to announce who that is yet. But the invitation, based on everything I just kind of wrapped up, is come participate, come be in the room. And if you can't be in this room, make it to the poetry and policy. If you can't get to that, get in a room with somebody and make yourself known. Get your, what we started with it. What is the thing?
Girl, get a doula. And support is a new superpower. I don't know.
No, what's the one when people introduce themselves? I'm Jonathan.
Crush the crisis.
Crush the crisis.
Yes.
So get out there and crush some crises.
Yeah. So I went through all of them. I was like, which one?
I think we kind of got off on a tangent a little bit, but in the beginning, we're just gonna go around and say like what was our purpose in like crushing the crisis, like what do we feel like our life mission is in order to address that situation, because I feel like everyone here has like something that they're supposed to give to others, right? Depending on like whatever career path you choose, like there's a mission that you're, trying to uphold, right? So I think that a great takeaway would be like, what is your individual mission in order to crush that crisis?
Love that.
Yeah, and so show up on tomorrow?
April 13th.
April 13th.
Tomorrow we have a maternal health convention with doulas in our community that took on a lot of different topics and ideas. And so we're going to be doing that, and Lou Hill is going to be our speaker talking about the power of grassroots organizations. So come stop by. It's going to be a great Easter weekend.
All right. Christine, Stephanie, thank you so much. Everybody in the room, thank you. We'll see you all next week.